Hello everyone, I'm Never Done, and that was really loud. Merry Christmas everybody. I mean, it was Christmas ages ago. But this comic was my pre-Christmas comic. So, in the spirit of last year's Christmas, we've got our turtle family, always the warmest, snuggliest feelings, and I always use the turtle family to tell these sort of more sentimental stories. I actually posted, maybe it's the next comic actually, but I posted a comic, it was definitely the next comic, we'll get to that, on Reddit. On Reddit, and someone said that they don't really get the point of a feel-good comic. And I see these feel-good comics often, actually. Instagram, Reddit, they're out. And they are puzzling. I understand why they do well. They're never funny. Ever. And that's not the point. They're not supposed to be funny. They're supposed to be, they're supposed to get a reaction. And, you know, some comics have different targets. They're not always gag comics. They're not always trying to make you laugh. And I've sort of asked myself sometimes, do I want to do that? Do I want to just make people say, oh, that's so sweet? And be like, there's nothing funny here. I feel bad doing that. I don't like that. I'm not saying I don't like those other comics. I just don't like me doing it. Because I don't really feel like that's where my heart is. I do like sweetness and happiness and that sort of thing. But for my comic, I like to have always a little bit something funky, weird, whatever. Although I feel like I'm saying this, and I feel like this comic doesn't do that. I feel like this comic is sort of a sweet thing that doesn't have that humorous point. So I don't know where I'm going with this. But to say that the commenter on my Reddit there, I agree with him. I generally don't. I understand why he doesn't get why comics do that. It's not for you. If you're looking for a joke, it's not for you. My comics always, I don't always have a good joke. But I'm hoping that my comics are interesting, at least to read. And that's really, I look forward to reading comics. Like I read XKCD, Exo Comics, Loading Artist, occasionally Penny Arcade. And a lot of them, Loading Artist is pretty consistently good, actually. And Exo Comics is always good, but for different reasons. Penny Arcade, it's never funny. I never find it funny. And it's very popular, very successful. But I don't find it funny. Now, maybe it's because I'm not in that field too much. I do game, but I am not to their level. And maybe just I've read it too much and it's become bland for me, but I still find it very interesting to read. I like reading it. I like looking at the comic. I like looking at the art. And for me, I mean, I'm enjoying that. And I don't need it to be making me laugh for me to enjoy the comic. So, I don't know. Maybe that you guys tell me in the comments, is my comic worth reading? Do you need it to make you laugh to be worth reading? Because really, this is an entertainment value thing. Do you want to spend your time looking up this comic each week to see what it has to present to you? Because if you need it to be funny, then I'm definitely missing the mark sometimes, because I don't always have a tremendously hilarious joke, because I'm just not the best at coming up with them. So I hope I'm always producing at least interesting scenarios, and hopefully you guys enjoy the characters that I'm creating, because I'm trying to tell a world, and with every artist, some like Loading Artist doesn't try to tell any kind of a world. He specifically just, this is a human, that's another human. Similarly, XKCD actually has more characterization than Loading Artist, I would say. Because guy with hat versus girl versus guy with no hat, those are specific characters and they have particular styles and way they interact. So different artists, different comic creators have different goals with their comics. I think Exo Comics does have a bit of a world, because Lee and Shoelace, they've got their thing, and Bun, the thief Bun, definitely suspicious. So for me, I'm trying to go very hardcore into building a back history into the world. So in the future, if I write any big books, they're all going to but you will be able to go to the comics and look for information about the world in my comics. So I'm trying to bridge this weird world of gag comic and story comic. We'll see how well that goes. You guys let me know in the comments how I do. So this comic, definitely always with the turtle family. They're very complicated to draw. I always keep them on 2 layers, like the shell first on one layer, and then all the body parts, the appendages and whatnot on the other layer, so that I can just easily erase the shell lines. It's just a lot faster. Use your layers. Although I learned when I was younger that too many layers can get you a little bit of trouble, because I thought, oh wow, I'll be smart and just draw, like, if there's a hat, that'll be a whole separate layer group, and I can turn on and off the hat. It'll be super flexible, and that's great. In doing my more recent work in the past few years, I've realized it's a huge waste of time. I don't ever usually need to flip on and off different, hats and stuff. So why am I spending all the time to draw everything and then get it to layer? Like, it was the worst when I had like a scarf that went around, because like, oh, how do I work that? It's going behind and in front. So I had to like have 2 copies that sort of snap together like a toy. That was so much extra work. Don't recommend it. So I'm trying to keep my layers basically 1 line layer for the foreground characters, 1 color layer, and 1 shading layer. And only ever would I add another color layer if I had like a complicated pattern I needed to work with, like inside their shell or something, that I needed to restrict to the region. So it doesn't often happen. Saves me so much time not having all the extra layers. I might have separate multiple line layers while working, and then I'll group them together and smush them together when I'm done, when I'm committed and not having any overlaps. So I recommend keeping your layers on the lower side, unless you're intentionally wanting it to be highly flexible. Like, you might want it to have, like, if your character is like a fashion thing where you want to have different clothing styles, you can definitely have them as separate layers. You can easily flip-flop them and then try out different things. Depends on what the purpose of your art is. Mine is just one thing, the comic. I'm not going to be having different versions of this. I could have different paintings on the wall, but for now, for why? No reason. If I was doing a game or a website that had things changing, yeah, I would keep these as separate layers, and these would do different elements that I could then lay on, and that would be fine. In this scene, I had a bit of a plan to have their shadow, their silhouette, projecting over his drawing to try to be sort of a reminder of what this is. It was difficult to get the shadow to go properly, so I don't know if that, it works well enough. Again, artistic license, you can kind of bend the laws of physics as you need. I try not to bend it too much because I want my world to be believable, but whatever. And even this is a bit of a problem. English. See, in this world, they have their own language, so they shouldn't be writing in English. But you guys aren't going to have any clue what they're talking about if I write in turtle-ese. So there you go. You got writing, and they don't technically have Christmas either. They have a celebration at this time of year that involves things that to us look like Christmas, but it's definitely not, because they don't share the same cultural, historical experiences that we do. So somebody's going to have to come up with that means and why that came about. That somebody's probably going to have to be me. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching me, and Merry Christmas, retroactively belated. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!